Part 124. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1235. After the Zhaijinkan War, the spread of viruses in the world finally returned to normal. Without the support of their mother body, a large number of viruses were like water without roots. They soon ceased to be highly contagious and were quickly eliminated. A large number of infected human animals and plants have produced their own antibodies. Uri's kiss, which does not have a mother, is actually a very common influenza virus. Garin returned safely with a boatload of people, which was beyond the expectations of all the forces. He was not destroyed by the nuclear bomb at the last moment. Obviously, this was beyond the awareness of the top leaders of the major forces, but the Red Crown Prince and the Vulture number 1 was also a little disheartened. After returning, he took control of the power and eliminated a group of clowns who came out to seize power, and then gradually retreated into the background. Because they were grateful to Garin, the two of them would occasionally drink tea with Garin. They also discovered the old soul hidden in Garin's young appearance, and gradually formed a teacher-student relationship similar to that of Uriva. Many things can be answered and understood from Garin. The domestic situation of the Slan Kingdom and the Red Kingdom quickly stabilized with the help of Garin, and the two countries united into an alliance to fight against the powerful Black Federation. While Garin was waiting for the lighthouse to open the blockade, he concentrated on digesting the large amount of killing skills and experience given to him by the Slayer. With the nourishment of the Soul Ring, his physical fitness quickly exceeded 20 points. It has become a veritable humanoid space beast. Because the rules of this universe are extremely strict, in terms of physical structure, any kind of physical strength will definitely require corresponding terrifying consumption. This also caused Garin to encounter situations that the universe had never encountered before. Rumble. Rumble and suck. In a huge soundproof building in Slan Kingdom, huge thunderous surging sounds of airflow could be heard from time to time, going in and out, like a continuous flow of water. The huge, white, soundproof building is located on a military base on the outskirts of the capital. Thousands of defensive troops were guarding the surroundings, not to prevent people inside from getting out, but to prevent people from outside from breaking in unintentionally. Garin was sitting cross-legged inside the building. The spacious open space was covered with black alloy plates. He was sitting in the middle of the open space, with dense ventilation holes above his head. Garin is just an ordinary strong humanoid figure more than 2 meters tall, but at this time, his gentle breathing will be accompanied by a terrifying surge of air as huge as thunder. A large amount of air was sucked into his lungs through his nostrils. After being compressed, it was quickly sprayed out like a cannonball and crashed inside the building. The clothes on Garin's body were also blown up by the huge surge of air. Click. The door of the building slowly opened, and Vulture number 1 strode in wearing a white suit, followed by the Red Crown Prince wearing a black tights and a black coat. Brother Deo, you are getting more and more exaggerated. The Red Prince covered his ears as soon as he came in, feeling that his eardrums were numbed by the rumble of Garin's breathing. The two of them resisted the airflow and walked to the opposite side of Garin. They sat down with some difficulty and stabilized their bodies. The wind suddenly stopped, and Garin held his breath. At his level, even holding his breath for several hours was child's play. "Why are you here? Aren't you very busy recently?" Garin said casually. It has been 2 months since he arrived here, and he has been waiting for the lighthouse to release the virus restrictions. Unfortunately, his physical fitness has also increased horribly, reaching the point where he can make an average person fly with just one breath. Situation. After accidentally blowing away the 9-tailed fox with his nostrils one day, he had to take the initiative to seek help from Vulture number 1 and find a large house with special sound insulation to live in. In order to prevent his increasingly powerful body from accidentally killing the people around him like stepping on ants. "Why can't we come? I'll make a special trip to see you after I finish my work." "Didn't you say you want to leave?" How about it? Are you ready? Vulture number 1 said casually. After 2 months of getting along with each other, plus the fact that there was no conflict of interest, he also saw a lot of things clearly. People also appear to be much more open-minded. Recently, with the support of Garen, he has succeeded in bringing down the previous boss, and is now moving towards the position of the number 1 person in the Slan Kingdom. If nothing goes wrong, he will be able to completely determine the title in the next few months. It's not bad. Garen spoke as softly as possible, but his voice was still like thunder, and the huge airflow caused the clothes of Vulture number 1 and the Red Crown Prince to flip back wildly. A lot of saliva and saliva splashed out. It's getting more and more exaggerated, the prince said speechlessly. He wiped the saliva from his face and said, "You can spit on people's faces when you speak." "I can't help it." Garen was helpless. He was too powerful, and a lot of saliva flew out accidentally. Talking to people was like rain. "Where is Urawa? How is his condition?" Garen asked casually. "That guy went to the Black Federation and contacted the old department. He originally joined an organization after running away from home to fight against his father. Later it fell apart and now he is looking for his old friends. Now his sister is gone and there is no one left in Garen. Guanglu has disappeared, and even if he is found, he will never be willing to forgive him. He is just a lonely person." Vulture number 1 said calmly, "Master, why don't you take care of him more quickly?" "Care? People will always have to go through this. Isn't growth the result of experience?" Garen picked up the teacup and took a sip. Laugh. The tea disappeared into the cup as if it had moved instantly. Transferred directly to home and mouth. This is because his suction force is too strong, causing the tea to move too fast, as if it is teleporting, and cannot be recognized by the naked eye. "I may not be able to stay for a few more days after drinking tea." Garen put down his cup and whispered softly, "After you leave, you can also take care of Liwa and the others. This is my request." "No problem." Vulture number 1 calmly picked up the teacup and took a sip himself. His body was covered with saliva sprayed by Galleon. "Can you tell me where you plan to go?" "I told you, you don't know." Garen smiled, "It's the depths of the universe. Yes, living as a freak like you on this planet is simply destroying the balance. I doubt that a nuclear bomb will be able to kill you now," the Prince of the Red Kingdom said unceremoniously. "But if you need any help, don't forget that there are 2 old guys here who have loved you." "Of course not." Galen asked about the recent virus disposal situation and other conditions of the White Crab organization, and everything was stable. The 2 countries have also formed a confrontational stance towards the Black Federation, not to be left behind. I am also completely relieved. Everything in this world revolves around the 4 cornerstones. As the 4 cornerstones of the first generation, Urawa's curtain has completely fallen. Perhaps more than 10 years later, when the second generation of the 4 cornerstones reappears and takes to the world stage, everything will start again. But that is no longer a problem that Galen needs to consider. He has absorbed 2 soul rings of the 4 cornerstones of this generation. If possible, he may come back to absorb more soul rings, but these are more than 10 years later. The soul ring is a symbol of the continuous condensation of the cosmic power. After its loss, there will be endless replenishment and recondensation of the cosmic power. It is equivalent to the abundant fruit that continues to be produced. Since the Void Demon King Kansta gave up this world to him, Garen was not polite and prepared to harvest it every once in a while. But before that, he had to go to the long-awaited lighthouse first. What he was looking forward to was not the lighthouse itself, but the records of the supreme source that the lighthouse could provide him with. Some people call it the supreme source, and some call it the supreme law. However, what the top experts of the lighthouse originally recorded were simply what they saw and heard. It was the source of the Mother River, the source of all vitality. More people call it the true source of the Mother River. Mother River is one of the 13 most powerful existences in the entire universe of countless time and space. The record of its source of existence, the true source of the Mother River, is a treasure pursued by countless ancient sound systems. Of course, the 1 million contribution points needed to read the true source of the Mother River, galleons were enough this time. In order to thank Garen for saving the world, Poseidon and the other magic lantern made up for it after they came back. When they heard that he wanted to see the true source of the Mother River, they each transferred 1 million contribution points to him as a thank you. After all, if Garen hadn't been here this time, the world would have been really dangerous. Everything is ready, just wait for the last lighthouse to open and leave the restriction order. I contacted Vulture number 1 and the Red Crown Prince to lay the groundwork for future harvests. After the two left, a new batch of visitors soon arrived. This time it was no one else, but the Nine-Tailed Fox and Kong Xingxiu, who planned to go to the lighthouse with Garen. Garen had attended the thank you banquet of other time travelers a month ago and received more than 100,000 contribution points piecemeal in return, which was better than nothing. It was agreed at that time that the two of them would go to the lighthouse together. But this time, there was obviously one more person hiding behind the two of them. Yeshui, Garen looked at a girl in black hiding behind the Nine-Tailed Fox. It's me, Yeshui stood up generously, but he was still a little embarrassed. As compensation for holding me captive for so long, how about taking me to the lighthouse with you, she started bargaining. Aren't you organized? Garen watched the three of them come over and sit down opposite him a few meters away. I broke away. You must have been kicked, Kong Xingxiu said venomously. Tisk, tisk, poor kid, for the sake of your pitiful self-esteem, you call being kicked a break. Do you still think your thoughts are well hidden? I want you to take care of it, Yeshui was a little annoyed. Then, why do you want to be with me? Garen didn't care much about the affairs of Yeshui's team, he just asked casually. In a word, will you agree or not? Anyway, I have been detained by you for so long, and I was forced to help you do many ulterior things. Yeshui obviously planned to rely on him. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1236. Hey, is this different from what we agreed before we came here? The Nine-Tailed Fox said dissatisfied. I know you want to use Garen's strength, status, and treatment to increase your worth, but you also need some integrity in life, right? Shame. You actually said that I have no shame, Yeshui yelled. Do you know who was busy taking care of you when you suddenly fell into a coma and suffered sequelae? Do you know who was behind you? I will help you stabilize the rear when you go to White Crab Island and fight for your life. Do you know who secretly placed the monitoring equipment at the risk of being discovered? Before Yeshui could finish his words, the Nine-Tailed Fox covered his mouth without changing his expression and could only moan. Are you bored? You've been arguing all day over little things. Do you know how to understand other people's feelings? We argued the day before yesterday and we'll argue today too. Don't forget that I still have the nude photos of you two in my hands. Kong Xingxiu being knocked down by Yeshui, the Nine-Tailed Fox also rushed over to help. The three of them struggled into a ball, making a mess that made people's heads big. Enough. Garen's voice rose slightly. Call. A strong wind and a large amount of rain flooded the three people. The three of them instantly turned into drowned rats, and a large amount of galleons of saliva poured over their heads and faces. Wow! The Nine-Tailed Fox wiped the saliva from his face and combed his wet and sticky hair back with both hands. Are you comfortable now? I knew it. Bah, bah, bah. Kong Xingxiu turned over from the ground, with galleon saliva all over her body. Speaking of which, since Garen's physical strength became so strong, his saliva secretion has also been fully strengthened. Just a little bit of saliva can drown someone. This is not the first time the three of them have encountered this situation. Hey, luckily I was prepared. Yeshui got up from the ground. The tight black clothes he was wearing seemed to be waterproof, and a lot of saliva dripped down his body. Be spotless again. But she obviously ignored the fact that the water on her face and hair was still dripping. The three of them sat down in front of Garen again, with straight postures, but they looked much more embarrassed with the smell of saliva steaming from everywhere. This time we come here, bring an extra night water, and go to the lighthouse together, okay, the nine-tailed fox asked formally. After all, going to the lighthouse this time, it was obvious that Yeshui and the others wanted to take advantage of the situation, so they had to ask for their opinions. It doesn't matter. Let's get down to business. I got the news that the restraining order should have been opened in the lighthouse earlier, but there are big differences on how to treat you, the nine-tailed fox whispered. Disagreement? What do you mean? Garen was stunned. Your strength has reached the level of a suppressor, and you are the strength of our human race, so the three major racial forces in the lighthouse are also negotiating on how to place you, the nine-tailed fox replied. There are three major races in the lighthouse. Of course, these are the three main ones. There are naturally many other traverser races, but their strength is negligible compared to these three. Which are the top three? Kong Xingxiu took over the words. The first is the multi-armed race. All races with 3 arms and more are classified as multi-armed. The second is the multi-eyed race. Similarly, any race with 3 eyes or more are classified as multi-armed. The Eye Clan. Then there is our human race. Anyone with a humanoid form can be classified as a human race. However, if we carefully and strictly divide it, our human race is mainly composed of 3 parts: earth humans, fish humans, and wing humans. As a new person, you for a master at the suppressor level of humans on Earth, we must first discuss the actual status and attitude treatment given to you, and then the attitude, status, and response within the human race. It has been many years since there has been a master at the suppressor level. Many years? How many years? Garen was not interested in these power struggles, but instead focused on these other aspects. About 2,000 or 3,000 years. The lighthouse has not been formed for a long time, only tens of thousands of years. So far, there are only 3 suppressors, 3 from the highest member association. The evil Shadow King, the enhanced Superman, and Yuking Metropolitan. Where are the other 3? The remaining 3 are not very powerful in combat, but they have a great role and influence in other aspects, such as Jules, the World Tree and the Tree of Wisdom. He can give you almost all the answers to any knowledge you want. That's a living thing. A super old guy who is thousands of years old. He may take the initiative to give lectures when he feels like it, and occasionally sleeps and takes a nap for 5 or 6 years. Kong Xingxiu explained. The lighthouse is divided into Wind Tower, Water Tower, and Spiritual Tower. We belong to the Water Tower area. Because the characteristic of our race is water, more than 50% of the body is made of water. Then the rest are similar? 50% of the body is wind? Or spirit? Garen continued to ask. Yes, the 3 major tower areas each serve as the living area of the 3 major forces, but a powerful being like you usually has to be sealed before he can come out to see others, the nine-tailed fox replied with a smile. I understand. Garen nodded in understanding. He had already felt the inconvenience caused by the large gap in levels. Speaking with a slightly stronger accent may blow people away, which is helpless. So, when the 3 of you came together, the restraining order was activated, Garen asked casually. Yes, after such a long time, it's time to turn it on. No matter which force you belong to, at least your strength will be an overall enhancement for the entire group of time travelers. This is a good thing, so they will never neglect you and will spend the prices to win you over, the nine-tailed fox replied with a smile. Just don't be surprised when the time comes. When are you leaving? Garen took out the liaison device. I don't know what it was made of, but its quality was extremely strong. It survived all kinds of battles without any malfunction. It's really rare. Anytime the nine-tailed fox stood up. Then now Garen stood up, and the other two followed suit. The nine-tailed fox nodded, took out his communicator, and gently threw it in front of him. "Open the teleporter," she whispered. Maximum scale. The maximum scale requires the highest level contribution points. "Are you sure you want to open it?" A pleasant female voice came from the contact. "Sure," the nine-tailed fox replied affirmatively. The speed was very fast, and in just a moment, a white beam line was projected directly from below the liaison device. The white beam of light slowly opened from both sides, like a rolling shutter door, opening into an arched white light door. "You can go in," the nine-tailed fox nodded towards Garen. After she finished speaking, she took a step towards the light door. With a scoff, the nine-tailed fox disappeared instantly as soon as it touched the light door. Kong Xingxiu also took a step forward, and the moment she touched the light door, she also disappeared at the same time. Ye Shui looked at Garen. Garen smiled slightly and walked to the front of the light door. It is finally time to truly leave this world and come into contact with the larger dimension of the universe. He was slightly excited. This time he was no longer just following the crowd and trying his luck to explore the world and the universe, but he could choose his own direction as much as possible. "Then I go first," he looked at Ye Shui, who nodded. Garen stopped talking nonsense and took a step forward. Just when he was about to come into contact with the white light, he suddenly felt Ye Shui's hand holding his arm. Laugh. There was a bright white light in front of my eyes, and I couldn't see anything clearly for a while. In the dark and boundless starry sky of the universe, a large rotating galaxy is flowing slowly. A large number of countless planets are just the most insignificant piece of river sand in the galaxy. These hundreds of billions of planets eventually form the entire vast and beautiful blue galaxy. The galaxy rotates slowly, like the most beautiful whirlpool of water, with a tall white lighthouse standing in the center. The cylindrical white lighthouse stands right in the center of the galaxy, and the top of the lighthouse is emitting 3 dazzling golden light beams, penetrating the entire galaxy and shining into the dark and boundless outer universe. The 3 light beams seem to be stationary, but if someone can measure the speed of the light beams extremely accurately, they will be able to find that they are moving slowly all the time. It's just that in such a distant galactic distance, countless light years away, the speed of the light beam will appear to be extremely slow. The white lighthouse is divided into a total of 5 floors. The uppermost floor is the control floor, which controls the operation of the entire lighthouse. Below is the 2-story hall, the Supreme Hall and the Observation Hall. Below is the main living area, a circular square and a 2-story library area. At this time, in the largest teleportation link point in the review area at the edge of the circular square, Garen and Night Sailor suddenly appeared in the connection point holding hands, and a faint halo of white light slowly spread around them. The white color in Garen's eyes slowly dissipated, and he quickly regained his vision. What came into view was a dozen smiling humans wearing white robes greeting him. "Welcome to the lighthouse, my dear fellow racer," the white-haired man in the lead said loudly, spreading his arms. "Sword Master Garen, we have heard about your power at the headquarters and are ready to welcome you to truly join us at any time." He came over and held out his hand. Garen also extended his hand, and the two shook hands gently. "I'm also excited to actually be here at the lighthouse." Garen looked around. He was standing in a cylindrical white pavilion, surrounded by rows of increasingly larger white stone pillars. From far to near, these stone pillars surrounded each other. The pavilion obviously provides teleportation for travelers of different sizes. Above the head is the vast blue starry sky, and under the feet is the white jade-colored hard stone ground. "My name is Pella, the general person in charge of the human race here. Regarding your matter, our boss Yuking Sect Master has already sent word in advance that he must entertain you well and meet you in person as soon as he comes back." Now his old man is in his native world. We are dealing with major affairs of the school and cannot be separated for the time being, Pella explained. Without leaving any trace, she glanced at Yeshwei, Nine-Tailed Fox, and Kong Xingxiu, who were standing next to Garen. All beautiful women. He suddenly knew what was going on. As the headquarters of the time traveler, the lighthouse naturally has interests. Where there are intelligent creatures, there will be conflicts of interest. It cannot be so pure, and the division of interests is naturally closely related to strength. How about I take you to the arranged resting place first, and then show you around, Pella said with a smile. The other people behind him also had friendly smiles on their faces, not perfunctory, but smiles from the bottom of their hearts. It was obvious that Garen's arrival could bring real benefits to them. No need, we will show Garen around. Before Garen could answer, Kong Xingxiu took the initiative to step forward and said. She was not a fool. She saw Para, a person that most people would never see even once. The guy actually came out to personally guide them with a smile on his face. Naturally, they immediately understood that Garen's strength and status might be higher than they thought. She is not a fool. If she shows a little more intimacy with Garen now and uses some influence, her life will be much better in the future in a place like the lighthouse where strength is judged. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1237. That's fine. Para glanced at Garen in understanding. Kakekyo er. A tall blonde woman with a charming appearance and wearing a tight black silk miniskirt suddenly walked out from behind him. Notify the image of Lord Swordmaster to all departments and release access rights. Clear. The blonde woman nodded in agreement. Then let's go eat now, shall we? Pella looked at Garen with a smile. No need, I only have 2 wishes. Garen raised 2 fingers. The first is to ask about the situation of the Earth before we traveled through it. Is there any way to know the specific state of the Earth? Second, it is about the record viewing of the true source of the Mother River. My contribution must be enough. These 2 questions. Para smiled. Let's talk about it while walking. He and more than a dozen people gathered the 4 gallons in the middle, and everyone slowly walked towards the inside of the lighthouse, following the starry sky. This is a long strip of Cambridge in the open air in the starry sky, like a sharp sword blade, protruding straight from the side of the lighthouse, with all the densely packed transmission link points on it. This is directly connected to the circular square area on the 3rd floor. Garen was surrounded by people walking in the middle, and occasionally he could see the white light sent back by new people behind him. Perrick was introducing him to the basic situation distribution here. There are not many people living in the lighthouse headquarters here. They only account for 1% of the travelers. Most of them are just management personnel. Most of the others would rather live in some peaceful plot world. You also understand, in many worlds, apart from where the plot takes place, other places are actually very safe and the coverage is not that wide. That's understandable. Garen nodded. So how are these worlds mainly classified? Classification? No, that shouldn't be said. Every world is a universe, which contains many, many planets and worlds. We have no way of exploring and clearing out the complete virtuality and reality of a universe. The only thing we can do is actually contact time travel and rebirth. Companions in various cosmic worlds unite together to form a common interest group that serves the entire group. At the same time, resource exchange is optimized. Pella replied with a smile. For example, in some worlds, dark gold is worthless and is everywhere. You can just grab a lot of it. But in some worlds, dark gold has unimaginable terrifying magic power. That's the top-level resources that everyone dreams of. Therefore, we use world transfer to reasonably allocate resources, so that we can better promote everyone's development and achieve greater influence in various worlds. I understand what you mean, Garen nodded. What about the Earth? Since we have so many Earth travelers, even if our hometowns are all parallel space Earths in different dimensions, then someone must have explored this situation. Right? What's the result? Pella frowned slightly when she mentioned this matter. We have been working hard in this regard, but so far, it seems that the Earth is so far away from us that we have not even touched the possible edges. As a result, we have discovered more similar planets in many universes, which is an additional bonus. Some planets are very unique. You can also travel there if you have the opportunity in the future. In other words, there are no clues on Earth yet, Garen said directly. You can say that, Pella exhaled and said. In this regard, there are indeed many companions who really want to go back and are looking for a way to return, but now it seems that there is no hope. Not only us humans on Earth, but also many people from the other two races are the same, and no one has discovered it. The way back. Yu Hangrui walked into the entrance of the circular square at this time. Standing on a parallelogram-shaped silver suspended platform, the platform was made of metal and silently carried more than 10 people through a purple arch tunnel. Woo! Some rainbow-like air currents gradually appeared in the surroundings, and strands of air flew around the crowd. This is the rainbow elf, which we discovered on a special cosmic planet. It is a kind of microorganism that can purify the air. At the same time, it can continuously spread a benign magnetic field that is beneficial to us humans. It can also be used as an embellishment of the urban landscape Para introduced. Very beautiful. Garen looked up at these translucent colored elves in the tunnel, which were like flowing water. They seemed to have no entity, presenting a faint sense of illusion. Garen stretched out his hand and lightly scratched the rainbow elf beside him, without touching the entity. Pella smiled upon seeing this. Speaking of this type of amplified creature, the true source of the Mother River, one of your goals this time, has recorded a kind of existence that is more advanced than the rainbow elves. It seems to be a pure energy body. We named it an elemental body. Perhaps you learned something when you watch the record. I hope so, Garen nodded with a smile. The true source of the Mother River system is the middle-ranked part of all top records with the lowest viewing qualifications. Do you know anything about the viewing qualifications? Kakekyo beside Pella asked in a low voice. Kakekyo other identity is to manage the service staff of the Supreme Hall. She is better at this than me, Pella introduced with a smile. Garen also landed on this blonde beauty with black stockings. Watching qualifications. Do you need qualifications to see something? Kong Xingxiu asked confused. Is it because the amount of information is too large and complicated that ordinary people cannot accept the impact of the amount of information in an instant? The nine-tailed fox guessed, obviously more knowledgeable. This is one aspect, Kakekyo nodded. The main problem is that the true source of the Mother River emits powerful radiation all the time. We only have one thing that can filter this special radiation and form a protective shield for people to watch directly. Otherwise, once you cannot protect yourself, no matter how powerful you are in your body, you may be summoned by your soul in an instant, and be directly pulled into the true source of the Mother River. Soul summoning, Yeshui slightly exclaimed. She was also a master of the Mother River system, so she naturally knew how evil this thing was. The Mother River is the source of all life. Her soul call is irresistible to anyone with a soul. Isn't this seeking death? No wonder it's so expensive. Garen also knew about this soul call. This is equivalent to the Mother River being a huge anode magnet, and the soul of the object being summoned by the soul is a small, very weak cathode magnet. Looking at the true source of the Mother River may be about the distance between the two magnets. So close that you can feel the pull of each other. He had heard Hesaz mention this move before. It was the top killing move of a true spirit being named Guyinduo. He once destroyed 2 legions of void creatures and 3 demon king level masters. Invincible. The status of the soul summoning move in ancient Yinduo civilization is simply equivalent to the super strategic weapon of nuclear bombs and hydrogen bombs in Earth civilization. It is a top-notch killer. The lighthouse actually has the material resources to resist the summons of the soul? It's really unexpected, Garen sighed sincerely. This is also a blessing from the intersection of resources from many worlds, Pella explained. There is a world that is purely a soul world, and it is rich in this kind of material that is specially designed for soul traction. We also spent a lot of effort to get it. A little, only enough to watch one person at a time. And it can only be watched for 10 minutes. Otherwise, even if this material is weakened and blocked, the power will make the creatures lose their minds and actively participate in it. The group of people happened to enter an extremely huge white square. The square was surrounded by circles. The top of the head was not the white zenith as imagined, but the blue sky of white clouds, plus a small golden sun hanging quietly. It was simply, it's like entering another real world. Here we reach the initial square. Walk forward from here. There is a large piece of land below. The area is almost as big as half the planet you just came over. It is just a completely flat area. The entire circular square, it refers to this entire continent. Pella smiled and said, "Welcome to the third floor of the lighthouse." He snapped his fingers, and the silver platform holding everyone accelerated instantly, quickly crossing the small square and arriving at the edge of the square. There is a hanging cliff at the edge of the entire square. It is directly at a very high altitude. Looking down, below is a large rugged mountainous terrain, lush green forests, ribbon-like silver rivers, and from time to time, a flock of geese flew by below. This is a completely different living world. Garen walked to the edge and looked down. They were at a very high altitude at this time, at least several thousand meters in height. The bottom layer below was as delicate as a simulated sand table. He looked towards the distance to the right, where there was a large white area, which seemed to be a lot of buildings. Over there is the commercial area of the square. There are a lot of messy things sold there. Except for the fact that time travelers are not allowed to kill each other, fighting in any sense is allowed here, as long as no one is killed. Paris stood next to Garen and explained. Nine-tailed fox Kong Xingxiu and others intercepted Kakekyu who wanted to follow Garen and stood on the other side. They asked randomly to find something to say, obviously not wanting her to get too close to Garen. Garen had no time to pay attention to their little thoughts at the moment. He carefully looked at the white business area in the distance. Then I want to see the true source of the Mother River. Where should I go? The business district can be seen or not. Apart from the identity of the traveler, the people here did not allow him to find a common sense of belonging. As for the weird ability systems, these have been severely suppressed in the public universe here. Although it is not as perverted as the Four Cornerstone worlds, it is still very disgusting compared to the general world. Garen's current strength level has barely returned to the planet level, which can affect the planet's balance level. It is stronger than the Four Cornerstone worlds, but much weaker than the Mecha world. The true source of the Mother River is one of the records of the 13 major sources. You need to go to the Supreme Hall, which is not on this floor. After we take you to your residence first, you can go to the Supreme Hall at any time, either by teleportation or flying by yourself. Pella answered. The group of people was directly supported by the silver platform, flew out of the square, and flew towards the high speed below. Along the way, Galen kept asking about various situations here. He probably had a certain understanding of the distribution layout of the entire lighthouse. This place is no longer like that. Instead of a friendly atmosphere of mutual help, it is filled with exchanges of interests and entanglements. No wonder Kong Xingxiu and Juwia are unwilling to come back to settle here. No wonder so many people are willing to hide in different worlds and live their own lives. Along the way, he and Pella chatted about some major events on Earth when they traveled through time, and Garen confirmed that the other person was not from his own Earth at all. It seems that neither the nine-tailed fox nor Kongzinxia came from the earth he traveled through, but more like some parallel spaces where history has branched off. This made him even less interested. After flying to a silver palace-like place in the mountains, Pella gave Garen a key, and the entire area covering hundreds of square kilometers became Garen's territory. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1238. Although the surroundings are completely barren mountains, I believe that as long as you stay here, a large number of other companions will follow you soon, Pella said with a smile. Suppressor-level masters can just miss something small. It's enough for ordinary people to have food and drink without worries. Whether it's resource exchange or nearby protection, with a strong person like Optimus Prime supporting you, you can have a higher sense of security no matter what, he said. At the same time he looked at the three nine-tailed foxes thoughtfully. What are you looking at? Although we plan to live near Garan, it's not for this reason. The nine-tailed fox said nothing, while Kongzinxia became arrogant. Pella didn't take it seriously, but it wasn't just him who looked at the three of them, the surrounding entourage also looked a little ambiguous. Does the sword master need some slaves? There are some good-looking Katiosha tribe here. They are similar in appearance to our human race, but their IQs are lower. They are naturally loyal and have a loyal personality. They are a good breeding race. Forget it, I probably won't stay here for long. Garen shook his head and refused. The crisis of the Mother River's depletion made him feel an unprecedented urgency. Perhaps seeing the true source of the Mother River would help him. He must have a clear idea of what path he should take in the future. Really? That's such a pity, Pella said regretfully. The silver platform slowly landed. Garen and others walked out of the platform, stood at the door of the silver palace that looked like an onion, and looked back at Pella and others. Thank you for the arrangement. Thank you to Sect Master looking for me. We will have a drink with him when he comes back when we have time, Jia Long said casually and politely. As soon as the other party's name was heard, it was obvious that he belonged to the world of immortals. There should be no taboos in drinking wine as a traditional thank you. I will tell you this. Pella cupped her hand. Kakakio will also live nearby with you. If you have any questions or needs, you can go to her directly. Farewell. The platform took Pella and others into the air and left towards the distance. Garen looked around. There were large tracts of pine trees, and the ground was thickly covered with pine needles and pine nuts. Some small squirrels were scurrying around without fear of people. Occasionally, some squirrels squatted on the ground holding pine nuts and stared blankly at themselves and others. Your Mightiness. Kakachua walked up to Garen and asked softly, there are thousands of rooms in the palace. Are you allowed to live in them with these three? Garen came to his senses. Okay, you can make your own arrangements. I may not stay here long. After seeing what the lighthouse looked like, he was not as excited as he imagined. The drying up of the Mother River means not only the loss of the way forward, but also the possibility of other chain phenomena. What he is most concerned about now is not the problem of living in the lighthouse, but finding his own goal and way out. As time travelers, they will continue to encounter reincarnation. This is a passive process. If they cannot master this process freely, if they cannot extend every possible life as much as possible and improve their souls, then as time passes, as time goes by and the number of rebirths increases, the time travelers will gradually lose their memories of the past, and gradually lose more soul and soul power, until they are completely washed away and turned into nutrients for countless universes and disappear into time and space. What method can achieve eternity? Even a powerful true spirit has to face the danger of exhaustion. Garen fell into deep thought. He initially took up martial arts because of insecurity. This feeling once disappeared and faded, but now with the news of the drying up of the Mother River, this insecurity has resurfaced again. He didn't know why he kept moving forward, but he felt that only by continuously strengthening himself in this way could the uneasiness deep in his heart be temporarily filled. Juggernaut Palace. Such an ordinary palace is completely located near the circular square business area on the third floor. Not many people knew that people from the Forum News department sent a beautiful woman to try to interview Galen, but unfortunately they only found that the door was locked, and no one responded to the notification. That's it. The origin of Galen's news was that it was slightly popular in the lighthouse for a few days, and was immediately wiped out by the gossip of other suppressors. As time goes by, more and more visitors come to Galen. Nine-tailed fox Kong Xingshu lived here for a few days, as they said, and then went to the library area on the fourth floor to find a job as an administrator. Garen also went to the fourth floor. The collection of books in the library area and various power systems are all very elementary. To him, they are nothing more than the most basic application of various universe rules. As the pinnacle of martial arts, he is not only to talk about my own experience and realm, I mean the various killing techniques and fighting techniques of the Slayer. With a lot of experience and understanding of power, you can easily get rid of several streets of library books. After all, it is just a popular thing, just to give some guidance and satisfaction to many people who have just traveled through time. The library area mostly sells one-time functional props. As for the information in the library, it is mostly those guys with communicators who conduct remote reading in various worlds. Garen found it boring after reading some of it. His current level was too high and these things were too superficial. It didn't help him at all. It has no effect other than adding some experience. Kong Xingshu and Nine-tailed Fox just wanted to take advantage of the opportunity and left quickly. They had contact and exchange with Garen anyway and could communicate at any time. After taking advantage of the situation, Yeshui made a show of force in the book area and obtained the intermediate authority to view the intermediate level power system information. So he swore to Garen and expressed his theory that human relations and love do not owe each other. Pepe and Dion also moved out. Soon I found a winged boyfriend. Only Kakekyu. This woman's motives are obviously not pure, she serves Galen like a wife every day, and she obviously intends to cling to such a big tree. She is responsible for many practical matters in the palace. Garen is constantly meeting visitors, trying to find companions on the same earth as him among the time travelers. But unfortunately, not to mention those on the same earth as him, even all the earth travelers, have never heard of two people coming from the same place. The parallel space is too big. Countless people who have traveled across the earth gather here. If they happen to come from the same place, the chance is no less than being killed by a meteor while walking on the street. Among the visitors, in addition to the human race, there are other races. Experts from the multi-eyed tribe and the multi-armed tribe also come to visit. They are all from the same mother river system as Garan. Galen welcomed the visitors of the same kind. After the initial contact, he had a general understanding of the masters of the Mother River system in the lighthouse. There is no Demon King level 1. There are 2 people at the Legion level, and then there are the most generals, and then there are the team level and the sergeant level. There are not many of these 2 types in the lighthouse, but the base number in each world is very large. It's impossible to count how many there are, but many people also study the Muhi system, so it's hard to distinguish. After these masters learned that Garen was the Demon King of the Mother River system, they all humbly came to ask for advice. The generals asked for advice on how to break through to the Legion level, and the Legion level asked for advice on how to break through the Demon King. The path to the Mother River system is actually very simple. Except after reaching the Demon King level, you have your own Soul Ring foundation and can improve the Soul Ring through plunder. Before, it was just the stage of laying the foundation. The stronger the foundation, then you will absorb and plunder the souls of other Demon Kings. The stronger the ring, the stronger the possibility. But Garen is different. His own Soul Ring attribute has the ability to devour, so the absorption and utilization rate is many times that of other Demon Kings. But compared to many other Demon Kings, he is inferior to them in other abilities. according to the reaction of the Legion-level member of the multi-eyed tribe. Many demon kings have extremely powerful destructive abilities such as annihilation, and some have super wide attack special effects. For example, Hesaz's original effect was to cause death of all things, but Garen seems to be extremely ordinary. The only ability he has is swallowing, which is not an amplifying effect. So in fact, compared to other demon kings, under the same circumstances, his actual combat ability is actually weaker. Garen himself discovered this. When he was in the Four Cornerstone Worlds, he always used his soul power and soul rings to suppress his opponents, always standing in a dominant position. When he really faced the Slaughterer, his opponent's abilities were very abnormal. One soul ring could compete with multiple of his soul rings. This was a real strength gap. After experiencing a preliminary understanding of the entire lighthouse, Galen decided to go and see the true source of the Mother River. Apart from the 13 major origins, there is nothing else that can help him. The true source of the Mother River, that is the supreme information record. I have accumulated contribution points for a long time and went to see it once. Hawthorne from the multi-eyed tribe sat across from Garen and talked about it. It's a pity that there is only a piece of light. I can't remember anything after that. I just felt like something was calling me constantly, very kindly, and I wanted to break through all the shackles and go there desperately. Hawthorne's name is not Shanzao, but because the pronunciation of his name is very similar to the Chinese word Hawthorne, Galen gave him this nickname. As a Legion-level Mother River Master, Hawthorne was very close to Garen. He often came over to discuss information about Guyunduo and void creatures with Garen. A large legion that he painstakingly managed had 13 generals, 52 team levels, and thousands of sergeants. They are all family members who have grown up with him step by step. Therefore, it is much stronger than Galleon in terms of intelligence. What happened next? Garen was playing a game of chess by himself, playing with his left hand and his right hand, while listening carefully. Then I woke up. I wasted 1,000,000 points and got nothing. The 6 eyes on Hawthorne's head blinked helplessly. His eyes are very distinctive, with 2 vertical lines on both sides of his face, and 3 eyes on one side, getting smaller and smaller from top to bottom, and glowing with a light green color. I later speculated that it was probably because my soul was not strong enough, so being summoned by the soul was too affected, and I couldn't concentrate on understanding what was in it. So if you go to watch the record this time, you should be much stronger than us. Do you know something about the situation with the void creatures? Garen asked, changing the subject. A bit. They are worried about the drying up of the Mother River now, but it will be at least tens of thousands of years before the Mother River dries up. I think it is completely unnecessary to worry about these things so early. The true spirits will never sit still and wait for death. If it is not possible, then switch to other cultivation. That's fine too. Hawthorne disagreed. I heard that they have established a 6-member alliance. Some time ago, a friend of mine came to me and said that he wanted me to contact a big shot in Gaian. To be honest, after so many years, Brother Deo, you are the only one I have met. There are no other Demon King level warlocks. Guyunduo has been in decline for too long. Even the oath of the Mother River cannot restrain us. It can be seen that the exhaustion of the Mother River is probably imminent. It has taken tens of thousands of years, and I even suspect that it may be the smoke released by the void creatures. It is estimated that the time will not be that long. Frowned. From this point of view, it is indeed very possible. Hawthorne nodded in agreement. Both of them were speechless for a moment. The situation was different now. The Void Empire can still find 3 upper-level Demon Kings as joint representatives, but Guyunduo can't find any of them. The civilization has long been dead. Hawthorne said that it is being rebuilt, but once Guyunduo's soul path enters the soul seed formation, it is almost impossible. There is no room for retreat, because the soul seed is the agglomeration of all living souls and will. Once you give up, you can only disperse the soul seed. The best result is to lose all memories and reincarnate, and almost completely lose your body and soul due to bad luck. Turned into cosmic fertilizer. I don't know what is contained in the soul summoning of the true source of the Mother River, but my inspiration from the Kabita tribe tells me that it may contain the biggest secret about the soul of the Mother River Hawthorne side. So you used all your wealth and strength to give it a try, Garen smiled. Yeah, in the end, I owed a lot of bad debts and got nothing. I walked out with a blank mind, Hawthorne said helplessly. I will go to the Supreme Hall tomorrow. I have submitted the application today. I need a little time to make preparations there, Garen said calmly. Then I can only wish you good luck. Hawthorne obviously didn't think much of Galen. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1239. Good luck, Garen smiled. Good luck is not enough. The most direct impact of the depletion of the Mother River is that all masters of the Mother River system will gradually lose their vitality. If they cannot find a way to change their cultivation before it is exhausted, then everyone and all Mother River creatures will directly or indirectly rely on the Mother River for survival. All the masters will face the danger of being cut off. Soul seeds form soul rings, and the soul rings generate soul power, and so on. This process is actually supported by the rules of the Mother River. Once the rules of the Mother River disappear, not only all the soul rings will collapse, but the structure of the soul seeds will also collapse. By then all soul species will cease to exist, which means that we will also be completely reduced to mortals, Garen whispered. Maybe this is good. Hawthorne from the multi-eyed tribe picked up the tea in front of him and took a sip. But huge risks can also bring huge benefits. If we can understand the original generation process revealed when the Mother River collapses, then we will also have the opportunity to understand the core laws of time and space. So what? Even the Mother River, the largest aggregation of rules, has collapsed, and it won't be of much use if we understand it. Garen shook his head. Hawthorne smiled slowly. That's not certain. Don't forget that there are 13 origins of time and space, and the Mother River is just one of them. We can do well in other places if we understand a few core laws. That's a good idea. Garen was speechless. I was just thinking about it. Hawthorne also shrugged, and suddenly a small thing on his ear made a beeping sound. Okay, my time is up, and there are still a lot of things to deal with. I wish you all the best tomorrow. He stood up. Don't worry, Garen nodded with a smile. Watching Hawthorne leave, Galen landed a piece alone, and his right hand finally checked his left hand. He chuckled and shook his head slightly. Since his reincarnation on Earth, he has been moving forward almost non-stop. Now, he has become the Demon King of 4 soul rings and belongs to the middle level of the Demon King level. The 4 soul rings can forcibly raise another 4 levels at the level of the pinnacle of world power. This is an extremely terrifying improvement. It also represents the exaggerated and terrifying strength of the middle-level Demon King. And the high-level Demon Kings are naturally even more powerful. The color of the soul rings ranges from colorless to 7 colors of red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and purple. Only when all the soul rings are condensed into 7 colors, with a total of 8 soul rings including colorless and 7 colors, can one be called a high-level Demon King. It is said that above the 7 colors is the level of true spirit. But now, Garen clearly feels that although he has 4 soul rings, they are extremely unstable. After all, only the first one was obtained through his hard work and enlightenment of soul seeds, and the rest were plundered and devoured by himself. In other words, I am now a middle-level Demon King on the surface. In fact, my strength is probably at the level of a bottom-level Demon King. Garen shook his head. The soul ring is not stable enough. Even the colorless level is barely obtained, let alone the color after being colorless. I don't know how long it will take at this stage. He sighed, closed his eyes and began to concentrate on adjusting his state for tomorrow. Prepare to see the true source of the Mother River. Garen's arrival did not cause any big changes. He just lived in seclusion in silence. As a planet-level combat power, he had no corresponding pomp or servants. This attitude of completely ignoring everything and not participating in everything was also recognized by the three major racial forces. Since he did not participate in the struggle for interests, they naturally regarded him as non-existent by default. There are many masters like this in Beacon, but Garen is the most powerful one among them. After releasing the news that he would soon be observing the true source of the Mother River and shutting out the envoys of all forces temporarily gave up on wooing Garen. The next day, Galen rose very early, and the simulated sky completely followed the laws of nature. It was exactly 7 o'clock in the morning. He prepared everything and headed towards the link area of the circular square. What Kakachu arranged for him was the unique teleportation board here, which is also a direct flying board, the item they took when they came. Garen asked Kakaku to stay in the house, and he took the flying board to the link area alone, and started teleporting directly through the small pavilion. Large swaths of white snowflake-like things kept dangling in front of my eyes, and this transmission process lasted for more than 10 minutes. Finally Garen felt his feet sink. "Arrive." A deep male voice sounded in his ear. Garen's eyes brightened. When he opened his eyes, he was standing in a circular white hall, with his position in the center. Standing in front of him was a bald black man with gold earrings. "I have been notified, Lord Sword Master. Your arrangements are all ready. Please come with me." The bald black man, wearing a white robe, whispered to Garen politely and respectfully. "Thank you," Garen said politely. "You're welcome, this is our daily job." The black man grinned and showed his white teeth. However, Garen had no intention of observing him at this moment, but carefully observed the surrounding environment. He followed the black man out of the teleportation point, opened a small door on the left, walked through a long and dark corridor, and came to a small white stone pavilion. The small pavilion seems to be open to the air on one side, and half of the direction has transparent glass. Through the glass, you can see the bright starry sky slowly turning outside. This is the Mother River in the Supreme Hall. Here is information about the true source of the Mother River that was recorded by a powerful senior who experienced life and death. These glasses are actually used to block the negative impact of the huge information. Please don't worry, it will never interfere with your thoughts, the black man explained in a low voice. After I close the door, the record will start playing in about 10 minutes. Please be prepared. The total duration is calculated based on your own achievements. Although we don't know the principle of the calculation mechanism, generally speaking, the stronger the adults, the longer it lasts. Some even lasted for 3 days. How long does it usually take? Garen asked. About 10 minutes, this is a common ongoing situation, the black man explained patiently. In addition, this handle in this room can be used to turn on the alarm. Once you encounter any dangerous situation, you can notify us in time. We will turn off the playback as soon as possible and come to the rescue at the same time. This button is required for eating and drinking. This button is required for special items. This requires the cooperation of special talents. He began to introduce the functions of the small pavilion room one by one. Garen listened casually, but his mind fell faintly on the walls of this room. The white pavilion-like room was filled with a faint aura of soul power all the time. It's not like pure soul power, but more like a combination of soul power and soul power. The water of the Mother River is made up of the liquefaction of countless soul entities. Could it be said that soul power combined with soul power will eventually become a higher level of power? He secretly guessed. The situation is like this. If there are no other requirements, we will deduct 1 million points from your account as the cost of this viewing. Would you like to start watching immediately? The black voice came over and removed the galleons from pull back from the feeling. He looked around. There were tiny scratches all over the walls, and some even had tiny holes. It seemed like someone was scratching and blasting like crazy here. Obviously, watching the true source of the Mother River is likely to cause some unpredictable phenomena. You can start, he nodded, indicating that he was ready. Then, please wait a moment. The black man exited the room and gently closed the door of the small pavilion room. Bang, the sound of locking came from outside, and then layers of power fluctuations and energy fluctuations came, all attached to the door. Are you worried that I will be possessed by my mind and destroy it like crazy? Garen has heard that most people who watch the true source will fall into a state of confusion and attack the room crazily. He walked to the glass, and looked quietly at the boundless starry sky outside through the transparent and cold glass. This was the Supreme Hall. Inside the lighthouse, it was impossible to directly connect to the outside galaxy. The scenery trapped here was all simulated. Time passed slowly, and soon, the galaxy outside the glass gradually changed. The dark blue and pitch black starry sky slowly accelerated. Faster and faster, more and more urgent. Garen only felt that his eyes were filled with countless blue starlights flowing rapidly, drawing out long and thin traces. The entire galaxy suddenly transformed into a tornado funnel with a big top and a small bottom. Hiss. In an instant, all the galaxies shrank down and condensed into a ball of small silver-white buttons. Inside the small button, which is only the size of a fist, is a slowly rotating galaxy. It looks extremely beautiful. Have you started yet? Garen held his breath and stared at the buttons carefully. Suddenly, the button made a loud bang, and instantly exploded into infinite white light. The white light was countless times brighter than the light of a nuclear bomb. In an instant, Garen's eyes only felt a sting, and he closed his eyes unconsciously. Laugh. A soft sound. The white light disappears. He quickly opened his eyes, and his eyes had completely changed. He was no longer standing in a small white pavilion room, but was floating in an endless pale yellow space. Small balls like water bubbles floated around him, floating upward. He raised his head and saw endless pale yellow. The bubbles seemed to float upwards forever and became smaller and smaller. Here it is. Guru. Another bubble floated up from beside him. In a trance, he actually saw countless galaxies swirling and flowing from the bubble. A bubble that was only the size of an eyeball actually reflected countless huge scenes. He couldn't help but stretched out his index finger and touched the bubble lightly. Boom! Suddenly, countless, terrifyingly huge amounts of information crazily poured from the bubble toward his brain. The energy mark was running wildly in an instant, and a large amount of soul power was consumed. Garen felt like a dry sponge, absorbing the huge amount of information coming from the bubbles. The information content was so huge, yet so meaningless. It was simply the countless lucky formation histories of countless planets. Although spectacular, it was meaningless to him. Every planet has a long or short record, some are billions of years old, and some are hundreds of billions of years old. But slowly, with the crazy influx of information, Garen gradually realized that something was wrong. There was some inexplicable aura in these messages, which seemed to be the aura that he had discovered before, the aura that combined the spirit and soul power. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1240. Each stream of information, carrying enough information to crush the average person's brain in an instant, was constantly swirling and condensing in Garen's mind, and then gradually formed golden symbols with an incomparably beautiful aura. This is a symbol without any meaning. It is extremely complex, but it looks extremely simple. Only by looking closely at each line can you find that it contains countless terrifying changes and information flows. The seniors who can record this are really powerful to a certain level. Garen sincerely admired the predecessors who established this information record. The flow of information gradually increased, and each stream contained the development history of countless galaxies and universes. Gradually, These new symbols began to stick together slowly, forming a stream of golden symbols, slowly filling Garen's mind. In flow. The stream is not water, but countless golden symbols. Garen only felt that the inexplicable aura was getting thicker and stronger. As the golden symbols formed a stream, the aura became even more powerful. There are more and more symbols flowing into the stream, and they are getting denser and denser. The stream gradually turned into a river, and the river gradually became larger and wider. Gradually, the heavy part of the river drops rapidly and sinks to the bottom, while the clear part gradually rises. The surface of the clear and light part is gradually attached with a layer of faint illusory aura, which is the aura of countless auras formed by golden symbols. These powerful auras attached to the huge river, gradually forming a lighter and thinner river. It is no longer golden but transparent with almost no color. As the energy becomes more and more abundant, thicker and thicker, and the time becomes longer and longer, these energy gradually turn a faint green color and surge non-stop. The entire river gradually divided into two layers. The lowermost layer was the golden inner river, which was still flowing slowly even though it was wrapped in auras, while the outermost layer was filled with the flow of countless auras. Due to the different flow rates between the two layers, a slight friction force is formed. This force has a strong penetration effect, and that is the new time. It rubs against all external objects all the time, wearing them down and causing them to go from rebirth to death. From completeness to incompleteness. From prosperity to decline. This creates a new history and a new information flow. The information flow continues to condense into golden symbols, and then forms a new mother river. Then what is the origin of the mother river? What is its source? What led it to form such a scale? Garen still didn't understand, although he understood the concept of the mother river. But he still hasn't found the most fundamental origin of the mother river. Only by finding that can he figure out the fundamental reason for the real depletion of the mother river. He read on patiently. It seemed as if following his inquiry, the scene changed again. The picture quickly flew from the light green to the upper reaches of the river. The river became wider and wider, the green became thicker and thicker, and the speed of the current became more and more rapid. And the friction with the inland river is getting bigger and bigger. The flow of time here has reached an extremely terrifying level. Thousands of years have passed in a blink of an eye. A nap may last tens of thousands of years. The screen has started to shake. I'm afraid I can only go here. A deep and loud voice sounded in the screen. My limit, my lifespan is no longer enough to support moving forward. The voice spoke many ancient languages. Obviously, this scene may not have been recorded by a time traveler at all, but by a supreme and powerful true spirit in the Mother River. Garen also knew that he might have reached a critical point. He was concentrating on the picture. The picture shook more and more violently, but the recorder seemed unwilling to do so. He hesitated, and then the picture began to shake violently. It seemed to throw the record items violently forward. After a while, the world was spinning. I don't know how far it flew. With a pop, the screen paused momentarily. It was completely fixed on a huge dark green ball. Numerous dense green silk tentacles extend around this round ball. In the middle of his dark green, there is a small black hole. The black hole is so deep and conspicuous that all the dazzling green surrounding it cannot hide its existence. Pitch black, black beyond words, broad, majestic, vast. The moment Garen saw the black hole, the soul ring in his mind suddenly shook violently, and countless soul powers boiled like boiling water. He felt that the darkness was so gentle, so peaceful, so tolerant, as if it could accommodate everything. An unprecedented sense of security and peace of mind flooded into his heart. It was as if he had returned home and his whole body was completely relaxed. It was as if he had taken a shower and had a complete rest after a stressful and tiring exercise. Lying on his back on the bed, the indescribable feeling of comfort almost made him completely relieved. On alert, the body moved forward involuntarily. It was as if a voice was calling him softly. Come on, come on. Darkness is the source of everything. Darkness contains everything and derives everything. It is the mother of all things. The mother of darkness is before light, before the universe, before the dimension of time and space. It is chaos and one of the beginnings. Garen stared blankly at the small black hole. Countless information continued to flow in his mind. From this moment on, the amount of information pouring into his brain instantly increased to 10 times, and then to 100 times. The mechanical mark had completely collapsed and was unable to process so much information and data. Garen's nostrils began to slowly flow blood, but he did not notice it at all. Instead, a person slowly walked towards the glass as if he was possessed. Snapped. He was blocked by the glass. When he found out that he was blocked, Garen seemed to be instinctively angry. He started punching the glass blocking him. Huge power echoed throughout the entire small pavilion room. The amount of information is getting bigger and bigger. 4 days passed unknowingly. During these 4 days, Garen continued to repeat the action of beating the glass. His nostrils were still bleeding slowly, and his face was getting paler. Perhaps no one has ever been able to accept the flow of information to this point, but Garen did it. This is the first Demon King level master to enter and watch this record. The highest before was only Legion level. Garen persisted until the end. The aura constantly emitted from the black hole is completely the combination of extremely high concentration of spirit and soul power. The substance formed after this combination, Galen doesn't know what to call it, but when this substance reaches a very high concentration, it will a great sense of security naturally arises, as if everything is unified and all-inclusive. And he also discovered a big phenomenon. This substance seems to be the source of the formation of the Mother River. After it flows out, it separates into the Spirit Outer River and the Golden Inner River. The river is constantly branching, and due to the different flow speeds, it has different effects on the time flow rate, which in turn affects the space and universe it flows through, and the time flow rate is also different. Such an incomparably huge and terrifying river connects infinite universes of time and space, and these universes of time and space are divided into various worlds with completely different time flow rates according to their different flow rates. Snapped. The image disappears instantly. Garen suddenly woke up from the record. I found myself back in the small pavilion. He felt wet under his nose, reached out to touch it, and immediately saw his hands full of donated blood. A lot of blood had dried and formed blood clots, sticking to the bottom of his nose and on his chin, which made him feel very uncomfortable. How long have I been standing there? He was a little stunned and looked at the timer on the wall of the room. The clock-like timer showed 15 days, 12 hours, and 6 minutes. If you open it this way, the Mother River seems to be a huge information river composed of countless materializations of time and space information. However, simply because countless information materializations are unlikely to produce entities, then the more critical thing should be that the breath flowing in from the black hole seems to be what truly gives substance to the Mother River. Garen's mind was still very clear, and it had been a long, long time since his brain had felt the pain of overuse. Darkness contains everything and breeds everything. Because it contains everything and contains infinite amounts of various substances, it is possible to find one by one the various entities that can fit the Mother River to carry its information flow. These entities are the source of countless information flows. Substantively, they are the materialization of the development history of all universes and galaxies. After being carried, the histories of countless universes are all manifested and formed into rivers. Garen composed himself. Looking at it this way, the Mother River may be called the long river of history, the river of substantial history. But it is higher than history. It records not only human beings, but more of everything. But now the Mother River is about to dry up. If it is true, then this means that recorded history is about to be destroyed. The water of the mother river represents the record of the past. It does not represent the past, but is an information record of past history, just like the words that can be written on a stone tablet. But such words have created new meanings on their own, just like history books recording the past have affected time, space, and even life. Such a process is not normal. Galen's thoughts became clear. Then, the root of everything should be that black hole. He recalled the mysterious black hole in the picture. It is it that gives the mother river the ability to influence the universe. The strange thing is that the picture has completely disappeared at this moment, but when Galen recalled the black hole, he suddenly felt that it seemed to be continuously flowing out of an inexplicable aura, right in his mind and in his memory. He was suddenly startled. As soon as he recalled the black hole in his mind, he could immediately clearly feel that the black hole was still gushing out that inexplicable aura in his mind. Dark, intimate, and all-encompassing. Garen took a deep breath. The breath flowing out of the black hole in his memory actually merged into his soul ring, as if it really existed, slowly absorbing the soul power that was constantly being generated in the soul ring. After seeing the true source of the mother river, Garen had a deeper understanding of the mother river. The spirit of the mother river is not the source of life, but it contains a huge amount of various types of information, which is information about the evolution history of the natural universe. It can make life closer to the natural universe, more integrated with time and space, and thus gain greater adaptability. More powerful forces. The water of the mother river is the condensation of countless information. It can be said that the spirit condensed by the secret warrior is actually a similar product formed by the large amount of information in one's own soul, combined with various materials in nature that can carry this information. In this way, as long as there is a method system that is sufficiently consistent with the rules of the mother river, even if it is not secret martial arts, other methods can produce energy similar to the spirit. Garen has seen similar methods in other places. The mother river is huge and complicated, but as long as I can figure out the source of the black hole, maybe I can figure out the truth behind the depletion of the mother river. He was unwilling to give in. With his current soul, which was at the level of a middle-level demon king, perhaps for ordinary creatures, the lifespan of the soul had already reached 10,000 years. 4 soul rings are the ultimate soul lifespan of 40,000 years. This is undoubtedly a huge success for Garen, who evolved from ordinary humans. Because the average human soul, even if it is a time traveler, will completely collapse after reincarnation 3 or 4 times at most. 3 or 4 times, if it is just an ordinary person and has no practice, the longest life can be extended to more than 100 years, which is 3 times in total. After 400 years, the soul will collapse. If those old guys in the mecha world are successful in cultivation, they may be able to extend their lives by thousands of years. But it is far from the Galleons. As the mother river system for soul transformation, his soul lifespan is no longer comparable to that of ordinary systems. Although he has been reincarnated in so many worlds, he is tired of simply reincarnating again and again. However, he was unwilling to lose such a long life. The exhaustion of the mother river will cause the existence of all mother river systems to lose support and shelter, the rules of the mother river will collapse, and the existence of spirit and soul power will be fundamentally modified by the major cosmic forces. The depletion here is not the cessation of the river's flow, but the extinction of the fundamental way of existence. Just like a towering tree has been supporting the cave from collapsing. Once the tree dies and the cave has no support, a huge mechanical gap appears, the cave will naturally form a new structure and collapse. The cave was originally supported by the tree. The force will fill the hole in the middle, collapse the dead tree, and re-establish a new mechanical balance. A new natural balance. And now the mother river is like this too. In order to fill such a large sudden hole, countless universes will also readjust their balance structure. At that time, the cave may collapse, and all the saplings and flowers sheltered under the big trees in the cave will be squeezed and collapsed in an instant. Because the adjustment environment of the universe has left no room and space for them to continue to survive. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1241. Where do I go from here? Garen endured the severe pain in his head, walked towards the door a little top-heavy step by step, and gently tapped a button. That's the button that alerts people outside that he's finished watching. There was no sound, and soon there were subtle footsteps outside. Click. The door opened. Your Excellency? Are you okay? A young silver-haired woman in a white robe looked at Garen in shock. The moment she opened the door, she was a little frightened by Garen's appearance, and blood flowed from her nostrils and spread everywhere. Yes, it looks miserable. It's okay. You'll be fine after some rest. Garen waved his hand. What he is most concerned about now is what is flowing out of the moving black hole in his brain. Instinctively, he felt that these black hole auras were not harmful to him. The woman quickly stepped forward to support Garen, and her hands released several light blue ripples, covering Garen's body. Suddenly, a cool and comfortable feeling surged from Garen's heart. But what happened was that the woman's complexion instantly turned pale. I'm sorry. My ability can only barely heal you, she whispered. Thank you, I'm much better. Garen forced a smile. This was obviously a treatment method, but he knew that his body, with his strong physique, would not be affected by external forces unless he recovered by himself. Body, the price that needs to be paid is simply not something that ordinary creatures can afford. After leaving the room, Garen went to the side of the Supreme Hall with the support of the woman, found a chair and sat down to catch his breath. This time Galleon was completely consumed from the inside out, and the energy mark collapsed, so that he could only rely on the instinct of his brain to process and memorize the countless data. He had encountered such situations before in the mecha world, but they were not as troublesome as this time. Especially the mysterious black hole. Although he had only viewed the record of the message once, Garen felt as if something had penetrated into his brain. He quietly closed his eyes and leaned on the chair. He faintly heard someone calling his name softly in his ears, but he was too tired to pay attention to it and fell asleep. The Supreme Hall has the confinement of the entire lighthouse, and any living thing no force is allowed here. So he can also take a good rest in peace of mind. As his consciousness gradually blurred, Garen vaguely felt as if he was wrapped in an infinite aura of darkness, as if something was holding him up and moving him in a certain direction. He himself belongs to the ancient Yinduo Demon King and possesses the terrifying power of the Four Soul Rings. Controlling dreams at this level is almost a natural ability. There is basically no phenomenon of dreams being controlled by external forces. But now this is happening abnormally. After concentrating for a moment, Garen suddenly woke up, and his consciousness in the dreamland completely woke up. The surrounding black fog dissipated instantly, revealing the misty scene outside. What surprised Garen was that the outside world was not an endless black realm of dreams, but large expanses of green water from the rushing Mother River. The roaring rumbling sound kept vibrating in his ears. He found that he was rushing towards the upper reaches of the Mother River. The surrounding countless spirit rivers are getting thicker and greener. Come on. Embrace all the darkness and turn it into the energy of the universe. A misty voice sounded like a summons and groaning from the front. Garen suddenly saw a familiar black hole quickly appearing in front of him. Black hole. He was shocked. What exactly is going on? How could I suddenly be so close to the black hole from a dream? What the hell is this thing? Garen was slightly reluctant to give up as a new student. Faced with something he didn't understand at all, he was unwilling to risk it all in person. It wouldn't be too late to wait until next time when he was prepared and had all the information. Back off, he ordered sternly. As a demon king, dreams should be completely under your control. Boom. With a loud noise, the surrounding river momentum suddenly stopped, and the huge power of the Demon King emitted, and began to control the dream and transfer it to his own control. Garen felt that his position began to gradually move backwards, starting to move away from the mysterious and strange black hole. But just then, an extremely huge force burst out from the black hole. Darkness. Darkest darkness. It seemed as if countless people were praising and singing hymns, and countless thread-like power spread out and wrapped around Garen, pulling him crazily towards the pitch-black hole. Is this? Garen's heart tightened, and his soul ring violently rotated, trying to regain control. But it was to no avail. The terrifying power of the black holes was like countless giant tentacles of an octopus, or more like countless invisible hairs, wrapping around him crazily. The huge power transmitted was like a giant compared to Garen's own power. Babies are not comparable at all. Damn it! Galen, until everything was out of control. If the power of this black hole is really the source of the Mother River, it is naturally impossible for him to compete with the power of an ant, even though it is only a small recorded image. Wake up! He mobilized all his strength to try to wake himself up from the dream immediately, but unfortunately, this time the instigation seemed to further stimulate the pulling power of the black hole, and an even greater pulling force came from countless tentacles. It permeated the air. Although Garen wanted to explore the mystery of the source of this Mother River, he never thought that he would be dragged into it in such a forced way. The black hole instantly enlarged, getting bigger and bigger, and then suddenly occupied all the fields of vision in front of it. Garen suddenly felt as if he had been plunged into black ink. He couldn't see anything around him. Only the thick, oily dark liquid was slowly turning, and his body was slowly turning like a whirlpool in the water. With this slow rotation, some subtle information gradually penetrated into Garen's mind. He vaguely understood what this place was. A high-dimensional universe? A higher dimensional space-time that exists on the Mother River, or even countless dimensional universes. Galen identified the content of the information. It was some kind of clearly arranged record information, as if someone had specially compiled it, forming a form of storage similar to ancient pronunciation and multi-text pronunciation. Obviously it was also the content that was processed by a later power. But then, Garen began to feel that his power was constantly collapsing, like a star collapsing. All power, including soul power, began to shrink towards the depths of his soul. The surrounding darkness is getting denser and stronger, making it increasingly difficult to move. The pulling force made no more unnecessary movements after pulling in Gallion, and completely disappeared. High-dimensional space and time will inevitably require huge low-dimensional power as the basis for evolutionary improvement. At my level, I don't know if it is enough. After Garen understood that this process was a qualitative change in the evolution of his own dimension, he no longer worried about other problems. Now what I was worried about instead was whether my soul power was enough to cope with entering the higher dimension this time. Just like the characters in the painting want to break through the frame and enter the three-dimensional space, the price they need to pay is absolutely incomparable to ordinary levels. Now that he was pulled in and forcibly started this dimension improvement, Garen no longer hesitated. Since there was no room for retreat, he could only move forward. Judging from the ancient information left behind in the dark space, this information seems to be the remnants of many tyrannical beings who tried to forcibly enhance the dimension but failed. Some of them are Legion level, some are ordinary people who have obtained powerful treasures, and some are also demon level beings. By chance, they encountered the existence that saw the black hole, and then under irresistible circumstances, they were pulled in and forcibly entered the dimension. Evolution. If the evolution is successful, it can travel into a new high-dimensional universe. If it fails, it will be turned into a new cosmic fertilizer and nourish all things. Garen stirred up the soul ring, bursting out extremely huge soul power. This soul power was the extremely huge strength of the mid-level Demon King. It could even resist the pull of the black hole for a moment, but only for a moment. Perhaps the true spirit level can completely escape the pull of this force, but now Garen has no room to resist. In the darkness, the power of the vortex became weaker and weaker, and Garen almost fell into a sluggish state. Judging from the information memory left in the space, it was almost impossible to fall into a sluggish state and then rely on his own power to move. Once it was completely stagnant, what awaits Galleon will be completely exhausted, decayed, and dead by the huge flow of time in an instant. The rotation of the vortex can largely offset the most rapid flow of time here as the source of the Mother River. Once it stops, that huge amount of time can erase tens of thousands of galleons in just 1 or 2 hours. Along the way, traveling through numerous worlds, Garen has never been afraid of facing death, and he has also reached a point of life and death before his eyes. I was inexplicably pulled into this black hole. If I couldn't move forward, I could only wait for death. The only thing I could do was to fight with all my strength. Garen has made up his mind deep in his soul, and he will never hesitate when he needs to fight for his life. The 4 soul rings began to rotate crazily, and the terrifying huge soul power combined with his violent physical strength began to self-destruct in a destructive manner. Self-exploding soul power can produce huge agitation, but it will cause permanent irreversible damage to the soul ring. However, if the soul ring is gone, it can be devoured and absorbed again, but if it is gone, there is only one life. Garen had just summoned up all his strength and suddenly moved towards his back, ready to release. Suddenly, the talent attribute column below his vision burst out with a dazzling red light. Endless red light instantly penetrated his eyeballs, penetrated his body, and even penetrated the darkness, like a light bulb suddenly lighting up in the night. Magnificent and crystal clear. The red crystal-like light froze all galleons in an instant, like a bug in amber. He was completely unable to move, and even the soul ring power in his body that was about to explode was instantly solidified. Is this? Garen was shocked. He had been investigating the origin of his talent for a long time, but no matter how much he investigated, he could not find the specific source. This extremely abnormal talent seemed to have happened once. A powerful ability obtained by extremely accidental luck. But deep down in his heart, he didn't believe that such a complex superpower could be activated naturally just by relying on a single potion mutation. It can modularize all the skills and abilities of all things in the world, and summarize them all in it, so that it will never be chaotic and develop in a bad direction. Every ability is in order, and it also solidifies its own body so that it will not be reduced due to reduced exercise and degrade. Even if Garen came to the lighthouse, he had never seen such a strange and powerful talent. Solidifying everything and storing everything can be said to be the highest conceptual power. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1242. As long as an ordinary person has the ability to solidify, he exercises for 2 hours today and his strength is adaptively improved. Even if he does not exercise for a year, the improved strength will last forever. In other words, even if he exercises normally or, as long as you persist in exercising every day, sooner or later your body's strength will reach the upper limit that the universe can tolerate. After that, your solidification ability will keep it at its peak and never degrade. This is the terrifying part of the innate ability. The more Garen understands its power, the more he is afraid of it. Later, we tried to reduce our reliance on talents as much as possible. The reason is that it is simply impossible to figure out its specific source. And now it seems that there are finally clues to the origin of this ability. Absolutely, Garen was wrapped in red light and began to move forward quickly. It definitely comes from high-dimensional time and space, otherwise it would be impossible to shake the black hole so easily. Garen had a guess in his mind. The sudden burst of innate abilities prevented him from self-destructing his soul ring, and also temporarily eliminated the threat and danger posed to him by the black hole. But the situation is still not optimistic. As the force of the advance became stronger and faster, Garen felt as if he was advancing deep into the earth, deep into the layers of soil and rocks. The resistance was getting bigger and bigger, and the red light began to shake, as if it was beyond its capabilities. Garen became nervous again. Once the red light disappeared, he would not even have room to struggle, and he would be instantly digested into cosmic fertilizer by the terrifying time flow around him. Fortunately, there seems to be a glimmer of light at last in the darkness. A faint white light gradually appeared at the front, and the red light became dimmer and fainter. As it became weaker and weaker, it suddenly rushed forward carrying galleons. Boom! Suddenly a huge whip as red as blood whipped over. As he got closer to Garen, he saw clearly that it was not a whip, but a huge river made of magma. Countless creatures were tumbling and wailing in the river, some were humanoid, some were non-human, they were all naked, and they were hurt by the river. Corroded to the point where the whole body was rotten and blackened. The Crimson River exuded a terrifying attraction when it approached Galleon, but the red light suddenly accelerated and rushed past. Leave the river far behind. Soon, another huge white gold disk followed, circling and flying over Garon's head. The white gold disk also exuded a majestic and terrifying attraction. There were countless solemn castles, flying behemoths, and large films inside. Mighty armies and choirs sang praises. The red light carried Garen and accelerated again, rushing over with all his strength. The white color in front of him was getting closer and closer, and Garen could even see that the white color seemed to be a thick light film like plastic. Latia soon, another galaxy-like vortex slowly approached on the left, and a subtle and sharp chanting sound came out, exuding an even more terrifying attraction, trying to absorb the red light. Long pulled him over, but was immediately accelerated by the red light for the last time, leaving him severely behind. At this moment, the red light has also weakened greatly, and there is only a very thin layer. Garen was always worried that it might not be able to hold on and explode. It was only at this moment that he noticed that his body had been completely dissolved at some point, leaving only a complete soul. The 4 soul rings were slowly rotating, overlapping each other, emitting bright colorless fluorescence. And compared to before, his soul ring was faintly condensed. It seemed that after going through the process just now, the structure of the soul ring was more stable, and the original weak foundation of the Middle Demon King was completely solved. Soon, as he got closer and closer to the white light film, Garen felt that his soul ring began to shrink rapidly, getting smaller and smaller, becoming more and more compact, and it was a full circle of laughter compared to the previous size. A large amount of soul power is condensed and compressed and used to increase density. Finally, the red light took him and hit him hard towards the white film. Boom! A sound of thunder seemed to ring in my ears. There were countless white lights in front of him, and he couldn't see anything. Garen completely lost all means of perception. The white light faded rapidly in front of his eyes, and Garen felt as if he had broken through a layer of membrane. He rushed directly into a new, more viscous and powerful time and space. The flow of time here is hundreds of times faster than in the original world. He could clearly feel that time was rapidly wearing away at his soul. The red light at this moment had completely lost its role in protecting him, so much so that he himself could sense the flow of time in the outside world. Is this the high-dimensional universe? With a hint of curiosity and inexplicable awe, Garen opened his senses and looked outside. In the endless black space, what appeared in front of Garen's eyes was a group of colorful things floating in the dark space, like seaweed. There is light moving in some places on this mass, it is pitch black in some places, blue in some places, and eye-catching red in some places, but most places are still yellow earth and blue sea water. This seems to be a sand table projection of a huge world. Garen found many small disc-like pieces on it. Each of these small pieces rotated slightly, like gears in a machine, precise, complex and heavy. They vary in size, light, and dark. Surrounding the disc are a large number of tattered colorful substances like silk wadding, some of which are even fluttering. At this moment, he was using the last remaining inertia of the red light to move at high speed, flying towards the seaweed-like world. This mass of matter itself seemed to have a strong attraction. As he got closer, the pulling force of this world-like substance became stronger and stronger. Laugh. Garen instantly lost consciousness, and his eyes suddenly fell into complete darkness. It was as if his speed had accelerated to the extreme in an instant, and he had entered a state similar to jumping and teleporting. He suddenly entered an unpredictable situation. Lighthouse. Is the sword master still resting? In the Supreme Hall, a tall man in white robe slowly walked out of the teleportation point and asked the woman in white robe who was accompanying him. Yes, Your Excellency, Sect Master. The woman quickly replied respectfully, and stepped aside, revealing Garen's body behind her, which was sitting quietly against the wall with her eyes closed. Garen still looked like he was asleep, his eyes were closed, his face was rosy, and there was nothing abnormal at all. The face of the man in white robe was shrouded in clear light. He looked at Garen and suddenly seemed to have discovered something, and let out a light sigh. Wrong. He strode forward. Your Excellency Garen. He reached out and pressed Garen's shoulder decisively. Hiss. In an instant, Garen's entire body collapsed like wind and sand, turning into countless sand and scattering all over the ground. The woman was stunned, and so was the man in white robe. He took back his hand and was silent for a moment. Then he said slowly, Lord Garen, I can't feel where his soul is. His body has completely withered and turned into sand, and all life energy has been completely removed. The woman covered her mouth, showing disbelief. How is that possible? He just saw the true source of the Mother River once. Although I don't want to believe it, it is the truth. The man sighed softly. Garen has fallen. Inform the lighthouse control to lower the flag to half-mast. He looked regretful. What a pity for a talented master. This may be an accident. Perhaps Garen was too confident about the call of the true source. Dark. It's still dark and I can't see anything clearly. When Garen woke up from his coma, he didn't know how long he had been unconscious. He felt that his soul ring seemed to have slight cracks, but fortunately, this time it was much better than before, and there was no major loss. The feedback from the surrounding soul power shows that he seems to have stabilized. The rules of space and time in the surrounding universe are extremely stable, to an outrageous level. If the rules of the four cornerstone worlds are already very abnormal, then here the rules are 10 times more solid. He couldn't see anything around him, but Garen could feel that he seemed to be inside an oval-shaped space. This space was very small, just enough for him to be alone. But the trouble was, there was a small ball of flesh shrinking next to him. The whirring thing, I don't know what it is also moving slightly with his movement. This little thing obviously occupied Galleon's activity space. Garen felt that he seemed to have an entity. He tried to reach out his hand. Since it was completely dark, he could not see his hands, but he could feel that his hands could move slowly. Probably reincarnated again, he came to a conclusion. Judging from the sense of touch, it seems that his hands are not human palms at all, but like those of birds, with 3 fingers in the front and 1 finger in the back. The fingertips are sharp but a little soft. It is obvious that they are not fully pregnant yet. In the darkness, Garen stretched out his paws and pushed the little meatball next to him into the corner. He occupied a large space and began to carefully explore his current body shape with his little paws. He touched his legs, which seemed to have the same posture as his hands. The muscle lines were still quite obvious, but there were no human toes, but the same 4 toes, with sharp but soft ends. Touching his back again, he felt like something was moving on his back. When he touched it with his paws, he felt that there seemed to be 2 fan-like things curled up and close to his back. The feeling of his paws was almost the same as touching his ribs on his back. In addition, Garen felt that his neck seemed a bit too long. The entire neck accounts for a full third of the total body length. There is something moving behind the butt. This gave him a chill. Could it be a deformity? No, it won't happen. He immediately denied himself. With the state of his 4 soul rings, even if this is a high-dimensional universe, isn't the lump of flesh on the side the best contrast? That little guy obviously only has the soul level of 1 soul species. In other words, even if the difference in quality is not taken into account, his soul power is nearly 20 times that of the little thing next to him, not to mention that his soul ring has a qualitative change in soul power that is hugely different from that of ordinary soul types. Even if a ray of soul power is compared, the quality is vastly different. Garen's heart felt a little cold. He tried to release his soul power to explore the situation outside this space, but the oval-shaped hard wall was very strong and his soul power could not penetrate at all. After trying several times, he gave up. Moreover, he also discovered that the release and use of soul power would become extremely difficult once it was separated from his body. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1243. This time and space Garen tried many times and completely gave up the idea of exploring the soul power. He also discovered that there was something like an umbilical cord in his belly that was connected to the inner wall of the eggshell, and tiny streams of inexplicable soft liquid were being fed into his body from the umbilical cord. Is this nutrients? He pulled on the umbilical cord, which was very tough. Obviously he is in an eggshell embryo. Such eggshell embryos often only appear in special creatures. Garen searched the memory knowledge in his brain for a long time, and in an instant he listed dozens of possible similar racial creatures, but further confirmation was needed. Time passes slowly. The outside of the eggshell gradually heated up, and some uncomfortable heat was transferred from the outside world, as if someone was baking it with fire. Garen slowly began to feel hot, but the heat became more and more severe, and he was unable to bear it. The mass of flesh on the side began to make a subtle whining sound. It was a hissing sound like sand, very pitiful. Call. Suddenly there was a faint sound of wind, and the temperature of the eggshell dropped instantly. Garen moved his body inside the eggshell, changed his position, and kicked the mass of flesh on the side away. Enjoy the rapidly dropping temperature. Esgilamildi suddenly a loud, heavy, and huge voice rang out from outside the eggshell. Garen was slightly startled. This was the first time he heard an obvious biological voice outside. This rhythmic sound was obviously some unknown language. Hiss. Soon he saw something was wrong. The umbilical cord on his belly began to glow, emitting a faint white light, like a lamp, not only illuminating the scene inside the eggshell, but also illuminating his weak body at this time. White? Everything is white, whether it is the inner wall of the eggshell or my body at this moment, it is completely white. By the light, Garen raised his paw and saw a lizard-like claw with no sign of human beings at all. The skin of the beast's claws is covered with light, tiny scales, which vaguely reflect white light like a mirror, making it extremely beautiful. This body looks very weak, Garen thought to himself. He glanced at the attribute bar below his vision. There was nothing there yet. He didn't know when the attributes would be restored. The origin of the talent's abilities must have come from this. There is no doubt about this of the world. If you want to find out its origin, you can only have the chance after you are hatched. Garen tried the strength of this body, but was shocked to find that the strength of the body was far beyond his imagination. It seems that my soul is too strong. It is estimated that ordinary human bodies cannot accommodate it without modification, so I can only enter the body of such a powerful creature, Galen speculated. Just as he was making various speculations in his mind, a large amount of soft and warm liquid suddenly surged from the umbilical cord on his belly. The liquid seemed to contain some kind of special, unpredictable flow of information. The flow of information is like a trickling stream, with large streams of liquid constantly pouring into his mind, and then deeply engraved into the air around the soul ring like a carving, turning into many patterns like tidbits. Garen's powerful soul power system quickly rotated, and countless soul powers were consumed. He quickly found the language and text system in these information flows and reasonably divided them into the language area of the brain. Only 10 minutes had passed when this work was completed. Garen glanced sideways at the other piece of flesh next to him, and found that it was also receiving this kind of umbilical cord information flow. Obviously, this was not a patent for him alone. It is said that some powerful creatures have a certain innate inheritance before they are born. Is this the so-called innate inheritance? Garen speculated in his mind. He was confident that his soul was powerful to a certain extent, and the automatically selected body race was by no means weak. Race. It is not surprising that there is an innate inheritance. After the language system transmitted from the umbilical cord was completed, he began to use it as a tool to view other information. This investigation immediately made him fully understand what he was now. I am a member of the great colorful dragon clan. I was born extremely noble. I am at the top of countless food chains and am the strongest predator. Our dragon clan is born noble. When we reach adulthood, we will become powerful level 5 creatures with powerful physical combat abilities. Ability, an innate spell with huge lethality. An unknown voice vibrated deep in Garen's heart, using the language he had just learned, repeatedly telling various stories about the power, glory of the dragon clan. This voice was repeated over and over again, which made Garen bored. However, the ball of flesh next to him listened with gusto and remained motionless. The soul seed emitted a faint fluctuation, showing that it was very serious at the moment. Dragon clan, Garen quickly read from the message the species he belonged to, the white dragon. The voice was still reading and chanting according to the information flow step by step. Before the third step, Garen had already read all the content transmitted by the information flow. He also understood his current identity. A white dragon. To be precise, it was a young dragon from the white dragon clan. Interesting, Garen was reincarnated into a non-human race for the first time. The information transmitted obviously had obvious personal emotional characteristics. It was obviously the content of the previous generation of Baelong who had modified it and incorporated his own emotions. At first, it was for the dragon clan. The positioning explanation of the lofty status of oneself, followed by some basic common sense of life, and then regardless of whether the young dragon can tolerate it or not, a large amount of extremely complex knowledge, customs, taboos, etc. all poured in. This information is obviously ready to be stored. In the back of the young dragon's mind, it will slowly open up when it gets older. This is normal baby dragon growth. But it was obvious that Garen was not in this normal category. He finished reading the information in just a few clicks. Compared with the information coming from the black hole, this flow of information was simply the difference between a mosquito and the sun. It's not even enough to fill the gap between your teeth. But soon the flow of information also came to a halt. Apparently the legacy is over. It became quiet again outside, and time passed slowly. Garen became bored again, and the inheritance made him basically understand where he was. The prime material plane. This is how the space he is called in the inherited memory. This place is very big, so big that the fastest elder of their white dragon has been flying at a speed of 300 km per second for 19 years and still cannot see the edge of the plane. Various races live here, and humans are the most numerous. Is also the race that occupies the largest area. They are powerful and greedy, like weeds that cannot be burned away by wildfire. Once a group dies, another group will grow in the blink of an eye. There are countless strong people. Since the disappearance of Dragon Island 200,000 years ago, the dragon clan has completely fallen into a state of decline. Although the inherited memories repeatedly praise the greatness and glory of the dragon clan, Garen is also sensitive to the hatred for humans and dwarves, especially the human race. They hunted dragons and retained their bodies using special craftsmanship, making them themselves or even giving them to dwarves to make various powerful equipment. They are more disgusting and greedy existences than hell demons and abyss demons. These detailed and boring contents were quickly passed by Garen, and they were nothing more than training and instilling hatred and disgust in the young dragons towards humans. Garen's main concern is the environment here. Obviously the environment of this world is similar to many Western myths he has seen before on Earth. What shocked him the most was that there was a god here. Some gods send gospels and miracles, and a large number of believers establish organizations and countries. Some gods penetrate into daily life, such as the god of poetry, the god of wealth, the god of springs, the god of forests, etc. All kinds of gods are powerful and bright. Under their command are not just ordinary powerful high-level warriors, there is also a demigod who ignites the divine fire, and the Holy Spirit with a pure and flawless soul. Various religions densely occupy and divide 90% of the entire main material plane. What kind of existence does the god here have? Garen continued to analyze the inheritance data in the eggshell. There are no firearms here, at least no powerful weapons like nuclear bombs and missiles, because the gunpowder here is extremely unstable. And its power is far inferior to that of a technological world like Earth. The more powerful one here is the mage. There are 2 moons in the sky. One is Mills, the god of mages, the founder of the magic network, and the god of magic. The purple moon does not represent the planet, but the core of the magic network. The other moon is black and can only be seen by the necrotic and believers who master the shadow energy. That is the black moon, representing another magic network, the shadow magic network. Derived from the dark goddess Shar, it was created to fight against Mills. These 2 magic networks are the main power transmission system in this world, or this plane. Garen has a little difficulty understanding the concept of planes here. The planets he was familiar with, the galaxies and nebulae, had no specific form here. They were replaced by planes, various large and small planes that were constantly changing in life and death. A plane is a sphere like a planet that is constantly rotating. This is only understood as a whole in the inherited knowledge. The rest is knowledge of hell, of the abyss, of the human world. Among them, they have the most knowledge about the human world and hell. Some reason is because humans are their biggest enemies, and hell is an evil plane adjacent to the main material plane. The former White Dragon clan would organize young dragons to enter hell for trials every once in a while, hunting hellish creatures as a rite of passage. But it seems different now. Garen saw the end of the inheritance message. The Dragon clan has inevitably declined. Although they are still at the top of the food chain, they no longer dare to live alone as they did before, because once they are alone, they are likely to be attacked by countless greedy dragon-slaying humans. Their bodies, their treasures, and all their possessions will be eaten away by these greedy maggots. Even for such an evil human race, some dragons actually join them. This is simply unforgivable. The anger in the inherited information is like a virus, and almost even Garen will be infected by it and develop hatred for the humans of this world. Simply, his soul ring instantly exploded with a ball of soul power, which offset this huge negative emotion. He continued to read. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1244. Those betrayers, those fallen ones who have abandoned revenge and race, will sooner or later be refined into soul basins by the great dragon god Tiamat and burned in the abyss forever. This is the cry of hatred deeply engraved in the memory of the White Dragon inheritance. Okay. Obviously, Baelong's ancestors were massacred by humans. Garen saw this and basically finished reading all the content. Putting aside the subjective emotional part, he got a lot of information about the world. Priests, mages, warlocks, and many other derived professions combined with spellcasting abilities are the components of advanced combat power in this world. Their cavalry, swordsmen, assassins, thieves, and other professions form an extremely complete social system of various armed forces. Compared with the powerful human race and the equally strong dwarf elves, the current dragon clan has disappeared, and the white dragon clan is located in the north of the plain. It has established a nest on the icebergs of the deep and cold northern plateau, and this nest has only been established now. In less than 100 years, the white dragon clan would move every once in a while to other areas to avoid humans who might find them. The powerful evil dragon god Tiamat did not protect her people. The white dragons kept migrating again and again. However, as more and more of the main material plane were occupied by humans, the territory they could hide in became increasingly large. The less, as the evil chromatic dragon clan, unlike the metal dragons, the white dragon clan can already predict that sooner or later, they will fight against the human race. No, maybe it wasn't war at all, but massacre. Many members of White Dragon have been weakened so much that they cannot even leave this plane. A large part of the white dragons are even slightly stronger than the big white lizards. Except for the giant dragon body with a powerful hand-to-hand combat ability, the rest may really be just more powerful beasts. Decline in intelligence results from lack of food. After learning this, Garen couldn't help but be speechless. This great dragon clan, even if the white dragon is the weakest dragon clan among the colored dragons, it is strange that it can be so bad. Time passed slowly as he boringly studied inheritance information. The dragon eggs seemed to be gradually becoming more fragile as time went by, and a lot of inexplicable energy in the eggshell was continuously transported along the umbilical cord to the bodies of Garen and the mass of flesh beside it. Garen could feel his body getting stronger and stronger, and his scales and nails getting harder and harder. Click. Suddenly one day, when Garen accidentally scratched the eggshell, the inner wall of the eggshell broke by itself. He glanced to the side, and saw that the ball of flesh had grown into the shape of a small baby dragon, and it was beating the inner wall of the eggshell hard with its 4 little claws. Then he ate the broken eggshells in big mouthfuls, while his lizard-like face showed an intoxicated expression. Garen looked a little disgusted when he looked at the fallen eggshells, which were still covered with light white mucus. Suddenly I lost my appetite. He smashed more eggshells several times and crawled out. It's white outside. The first thing you see is a piece of white and bluish ice. He was inside a huge arched cave. There was nothing around, just some soft gray fur matting under the white dome. Garen crawled out of his body and heard the chewing sound of eggshells that were densely packed behind him. He looked back. There were actually 4 white dragon eggs in the nest paved with gray fur. Among them, the one he crawled out and another one. Both eggs were broken. The white baby dragon that climbed out plus him were enough. There are 4 heads. An egg comes out with 2 ends. Garen carefully observed the baby dragon. It looked no different from a small lizard with wings, that is, it was slightly larger. Almost the size of a human head. The tall dragon egg in the wine barrel is completely gray in color, and it is just right for 2 young dragons to emerge from it. He glanced at the little dragon that had one of his eggs. The scales on his body were like mirrors, reflecting the surrounding ice and the inner wall of the cave. Hiss hiss. Garen's brother called to him several times in an unknown language, but Garen actually understood it. Still not eating? This is very good and nutritious for us, this is how this sentence is translated. Garen was speechless and opened his mouth to speak, but found that a breath of breath came out naturally. Puff. White air spurted out from his mouth and hit the ground in front of him. Immediately, another layer of white frost condensed on the ground, and new white frost condensed on the original ice surface. You can eat, I'm not hungry. Garen then spoke and answered in the language of his inherited memory. He occupies the most nutrients in the eggshell, and he feels a little guilty, so he won't compete with his brother for such scraps. The brother looked at the frost on the ground with envy. This was a sign of overnutrition. Only with sufficient nutrition can he have enough energy to support the cold breath. Garen looked at the other two young dragons. There was no wisdom or rationality in their eyes at all. They were just fighting with each other to eat the eggshell fragments crazily. They were obviously species with low intelligence. Due to the lack of nutrition and lack of food in the Balong clan, many such multiple births occur, because such multiple births from one egg can bring about deformed white dragons that are weaker and more adaptable to the environment. These deformed white dragons do not have developed brains that consume the most energy, and their bodies are more than half weaker, but they are more able to adapt to less and less food and a single food source. They can survive better in harsh environments. Reducing body size also results in less consumption. These deformed white dragons no longer even have the right to fly, and their wings have also degenerated. They are no different from some hybrid earth dragons, so many white dragons directly call these deformities earth dragons. The other two are earth dragons. What a pity, Garen's brother sighed. Why aren't they like us? I don't know, Garen shook his head. Maybe it's due to congenital defects. They all have inherited memories, can speak from birth, and know many things, but their minds are not fully mature yet. Click. Immediately afterwards, the other two eggs seemed to be disturbed by them, and were smashed open from the inside. Little baby dragons came out one after another. 3 of them have intelligent eyes, and the remaining one is unfortunately an earth dragon. There are 4 brothers and sisters in total. The largest young dragon spoke. They are 2, Garen's brother pointed at the other 3 earth dragons and shouted. No, no. They are degraded waste. The largest baby dragon is even bigger than Galen, as high as 2 stacked basketballs. Compared with the weak bodies of the Galen brothers, it is almost as tall as 2 of them. Times volume. They are not trash. Brother Garen was unconvinced. The 2 young dragons on the side also stood in 2 camps, and began to quarrel for the first time since birth. Garen ignored the quarrel among these little kids, walked alone to one side, and sat down on the warm ice. The ice was warm, or maybe it was the first time he felt that way. The body temperature of white dragons is much lower than that of ordinary creatures. They feel that the most suitable temperature is below freezing point, because the blood of white dragons has never been higher than 0. Garen now feels a little troubled. He discovered a very serious problem. My soul power can't leave my body. Garen felt the seriousness of the problem. Soul power cannot leave the body, but soul seeds cannot, because soul power is many times thinner than soul seeds, and even this thin energy cannot leave the body, let alone high-density soul seeds and even higher-density soul rings. This means that in just a few years, my soul will be completely integrated with this body. If this body dies, then I will die, my soul will collapse, and even the chance of reincarnation will disappear completely. Galen got the results quickly. Is this the trouble with high-dimensional space and time? He began to analyze and think about where the problem was. The greatest reliance of the ancient Yinduo demon kings is that they can be constantly reincarnated. They do not have the natural talent of time travelers, and their souls will suffer huge losses once they travel through time. However, they can strengthen their souls through practice, solidify their souls, and achieve the goal of traveling through time and space. Reduce damage by magnitude. Ordinary creatures do not touch the soul level, and there is nothing you can do against them, because the soul rings of demon kings are separated from their bodies. Death of the body will only lose a part of the soul power, and then they can quickly reincarnate and come back again. But now, Garen faintly feels that the loss of his reincarnation ability is probably related to the failure of the Mother River. Maybe it has something to do with the rules of this universe. He quickly glanced at the attributes below his field of vision. Fortunately, the talent reappeared. After finding out a little bit about the origin of this ability, he was ready to use it again. Talents can freely increase their physical qualities in all aspects during the development process. Now that he is reborn as a white dragon, his foundation is extremely strong. If he adds attribute points on this basis, his future development will be absolutely unimaginable. Don't worry for the time being. With the protection of the White Dragon clan, there shouldn't be any problems in the early stages. Garen suppressed the doubts in his heart. Even a demon king needs time to grow after reincarnation. Now that his soul power cannot leave his body, he has lost the way to directly use his soul power to fight to influence the outside world. This means that now he can only rely on this weak body to fight. The body of the newly born white baby dragon is about the size of a basketball, and it is chubby and crawls around with its belly puffed out. At this level, even 2 ordinary human soldiers could be stabbed to death with a few shots. I heard that the powerful dragon clan in the legend has the defense power of at least a 2nd level warrior even when the baby dragon is born. It can hunt leopards as soon as it is born, and its speed is astonishing. But the Baelong clan eventually declined. Garen sighed, the only thing he could rely on now was this small body. The soul power cannot penetrate the body, and its only function is to be converted and used to strengthen the body. Originally, his mid-level Demon King level soul power could directly enter the dream world and manipulate creatures at will. According to the inherited memory, even if the time and space rules here are very advanced and the creatures are born with strong souls, creatures below level 4 cannot still do so. Avoid being manipulated by him at will. But now. Soon, a huge white dragon flapped its wings slowly outside the cave and flew in. A snake-like neck, bat-like fleshy wings, a body as huge as a lizard, and a white cold air slowly spreading from the mouth. This huge creature is nearly 3 meters tall, almost as big as an elephant.